Salutations, respected viewers. I am George from Ireland. This video is a debate about boxing. So I shall kick off in the traditional fashion. Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the House, this House would outlaw boxing. So let me first lay out our model. We would say that boxing would not be allowed. Boxing would just be regarded as assault. Whether it's in a boxing ring, outside of a boxing ring, it's just assault. Okay, would take away this legal guise. Obviously, generally speaking, punching someone in the face is a crime under the Offences Against the Person Act. It's common assault. There are graver kinds of assault like battery and so on. And so we just prosecute them as though they'd done it in the street, as though there was no so-called consent. The consent that people give to be part of a boxing match, that no longer counts, right? Any consent is vitiated by the fact that it's agreeing to something which is very harmful for the person. So we prosecute anyone who participates in it directly or indirectly, the boxers themselves, the referees for obviously incitement, anyone who paid to spectate, anyone who promotes or in any way encourages this directly or indirectly would face a sentence of up to 1 year in prison and obviously confiscation of all assets acquired from this activity. Now, supposing you happen to be walking down the street where two men were punching each other and you stopped to look for a minute, no, you wouldn't be prosecuted for that because that would just be too wide. So if you're not a paying spectator that didn't arrange to view this or to encourage this, you would be free from any fear of prosecution. So what are our reasons for wishing boxing to be forbidden by law? Well, there are three reasons. Number one is blindingly blatant. It's dangerous. Number two is because it glamorizes violence more widely. And the third one is because regulation does not keep it within reasonable limits, as our opponents will no doubt claim. So back to number one. It can cause brain damage. There's pseudo-Parkinson's. Muhammad Ali, formerly Cassius Clay, that American boxer who won the Olympic gold medal, the man from the Rumble of the Jungle and all that, he got pseudo-Parkinson's, these uncontrollable tremors. So he was all a tremble. He lost the power of speech for the last decade of his life. He had that sort of pill-rolling motion that people with Parkinson's get, unable to do up his buttons and things like that. And it was all completely avoidable. If you think being hit in the head is good for your brain, well, you don't have much of a brain. Of course it's bad for you. The trauma of that is like going through several car crashes, or the detached retina that Sugar Ray Leonard suffered. And people even get killed boxing. I know we have medical officers meant to step in and stop the fight. It very seldom happens. You can't box safely, even with those head guard things. So when these people are very badly injured, obviously the health service has to care for them, ambulances have to come. If they're permanently disabled, then they're on benefit and things like that. So no, it absolutely is society's interests. People say, it doesn't affect you. It does affect us because we have to pick up the tab for it because we're a caring society. Now, I know you might say, well, why don't we move to a model? Whereas if you're injured in boxing because, you chose to participate, well, that's it. No one is obliged to take part. You accept the risk. Well, we don't agree with that. That would be just too much of an uncaring and heartless society. We're more compassionate even towards those who don't deserve it. We feel that we owe it to even the worst members of our society, even people that have done foolish things, to come in and save them. Now, what else? Okay, glamorizing violence. So people see this. Sometimes the fans start fighting amongst each other. The boxers are tempted to fight outside the ring. It leads to the general brutalization of society. Children at an impressionable age are watching this sort of thing on television. It's not prevented, even if it's on fairly late. When I was 9 years old, I was taken to a kickboxing match in Thailand. That wasn't outlawed there. It would be outlawed in the Republic of Ireland, for example. You couldn't watch it so young, not live. And then children form the impression that this is something deeply glorious, something they would wish to emulate, and then they start fighting each other. So it just leads to more violent crime in society. People don't draw this sharp distinction between in the ring, out of the ring, things like that. So we don't want to be idolizing thuggish people. Now, I know there's some decent people who are boxers, but these pugilists, they could easily get into other sports, into weightlifting, into rugby, into even other heavy contact sports like judo or Greco-Roman wrestling, which do require physical force against the other person. Boxing is unique, and it's the only sport which is actually about causing harm to the person. Not simply throwing them on the mat, but hitting them in the most valuable and sensitive part of the face, part of the body. You know, the face is going to damage their eyes, their nose, their mouth, the head. As I say, it's got a deleterious effect on the brain. So regulation does not keep it in reasonable limits. People fight illegally anyway. The Marquess of Queensberry rules has not prevented people getting severely injured, indeed killed in boxing. Bare knuckle boxing goes on as it is, despite there being a regulated form of boxing. So we cannot make abuse nice by legalizing it. It is inherently abusive. So this cannot be mitigated. It can only be outlawed. And that's what I say we do. We step forward into the 21st century and become more civilized. No more will we call this sort of violence sport. It's an absolutely sickening misnomer. It's an abuse of the very name of sport, and that is why I beg to propose. Well, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the House, I wish to lay out the case for the opposition. Most grateful to my colleague on the other side of the House for putting so many lacunae into his model and into the reasons that he gave. So we oppose this for the following reasons. First of all, liberty. It shouldn't need any explanation, but I'll come back and flesh it out. Second of all, health. And lastly, because he is trying to ban something which just cannot be done away with. So, freedom. It's all about choice. If your choices are taken away, you have no freedom. People in prison have said this. You can't choose when you get up, when you go to bed, what you wear, when the lights are on and off, what you eat. So people must have choices. We don't want to live in one gigantic prison. And this is the nanny state. Back off. These are big boys who know what they're doing. It's the thin end of the wedge to banning all sport. All sports are dangerous. And yet this person, this mental gymnast on the other side, says he would allow judo and things like that, and karate, which are even more dangerous than this one, and would slam the whole body into the mat. Not that I propose outlawing those, but people can decide what they wish to do. It's your body. As a feminist might say, my body, my choice. So if they want to do something that's a bit risky, go ahead. We're all going to die anyway. You know what happens to these people who don't box? 100% of them die. We're all going to die as it is, all right? So it should be up to you to some extent to decide when you die and how you die. And why would you want to die? The picture of health. Might as well enjoy your body, get some use out of it. Die ill, rather than we don't all want to live to 150. And so if we forbid people from boxing, we will open a door we cannot shut. Then they'll ban karate, then they'll ban judo, then they'll ban Greco-Roman wrestling, they will ban rugby, the tackles could break somebody's neck, and people do die in these sports. Football, swimming, people drown. Marathons, people have heart attacks. I knew a young woman was about 30 who dropped dead in the London Marathon of the early 80s. So that's that. It is the height of absurdity to say that we can't do this. These people are doing this in a very regulated environment, and there are medical officers there. And obviously they have to be over 18 before they box properly. They can have the gloves. We can make head guards mandatory, that kind of thing. We can make the rounds shorter, and they go ahead and they box because they want to do it. It's up to them. Nobody compels them to do it. So go ahead. It's public entertainment. It increases happiness. We should use our philosophic calculus. If it spreads glee, if it provides public entertainment, then yes, go ahead. And that negates some of the physical harm which arises from this sport. But let me come on to health. As Mike Tyson, when he got his license back, the doctor said that he needed to box for his mental and physical health. It's exercise. And they're not going to train all the time if they're not going to get to box. And physicians are there who have the legal power to stop the fight, and they sometimes intervene and do that. So it's highly regulated. We could argue for greater regulation, more intervention, if that's your concern. Personally, I wouldn't, because people have agency. And they choose to do whatever they wish to. There is some danger that goes along with that. People wish to imperil themselves. Go ahead. That's what a free society is. You turn us into slaves. Very, very safe slaves who then all die of obesity and so on because we wouldn't be able to do things we find fun. Now, I don't want to go boxing. I don't want to be hit. I don't want to hit anyone else. I didn't really want to watch it. But I wouldn't try preventing other people doing what they wish to do. Just you try taking my fun away from me. So coming on to the last one. People fight anyway. before the Marquess of Queensberry rules, the two guys would go into the ring and they'd slug it out, punching and punching each other. There were no rounds. There was no output until one of them collapsed in a bloody heap. And that was it. It could go on for hours and was more often deadly than more often severe injuries. So what we're doing is we're reducing harm. We're never going to get rid of it illegally, so we might as well regulate it to make sure that not as much danger is involved in the sport. And all right, I know there is this underground illegal boxing. We perhaps prosecute that more zealously, but that's a separate issue. So if we outlaw boxing, it's going to go on anyway. It's going to be illegal. And the thing is, these boxers are not harming anyone who didn't agree to be harmed. So that's it. People have chosen to put themselves in harm's way, and the state should back off. And we should not have this health totalitarianism coming in and seeking to control every tiny little facet of our lives. It's like introducing a national bedtime or compulsory vegetables every day. So for the reasons I've already outlined, I beg to oppose.